You are 41 pages into a credit stress model when the call comes in. It is a Tuesday. Fluorescent light, cold coffee, and the hum of servers you can never quite place. You are a senior credit analyst, good enough to see the risk, too junior to act on it. Your assignment is a routine audit of Harville Bancorp, a family bank, 4.2 billion in assets. The kind of institution where the branch manager still knows every customer by their first name. You have been doing this for 11 years. Thorough, careful, a safe pair of hands, nothing more. The call is from a solicitor named Whitmore. He speaks with the precision of very bad news. He tells you your mother's older brother has died, a man you met 4 times in your whole life. A man who kept his opinions about money entirely private. You barely knew his face. Under a trust established 17 years ago, you inherit a controlling 53% stake in the bank. You set down your pen. You do not speak. Nothing on your screen moves. Nothing anywhere moves. The estate is not liquid. The stock is not publicly traded. There is no exit mechanism written anywhere. No co-inheritor. No buyout clause. No partner. There is only you, and there is only the bank. There is a board meeting in 9 days. You are expected to appear and take your seat. You hang up the phone. You look at the model still open on your screen. You close it. The due diligence you run over the next 6 days is the most thorough work of your career. You pull every filing, every regulatory examination, every quarterly report going back 8 full years. What you find is not a disaster, but it is not healthy either. Not close to it. 31% of the commercial loan book is tied to one real estate sector, softening over the past 18 months. Tier 1 capital sits at 8.4%, technically compliant, but the cushion is dangerously thin. Deposit growth has stalled. Technology is a decade behind. You are looking at a full rebuild. There is a $340 million loan portfolio your uncle labeled performing. You are not so sure. And then you find something else. A $60 million line of credit, nearly fully drawn. It traces back through 2 shell companies to the bank's longest-serving board member. You read it again. You sit with that document for a very long time. You know exactly what this is. You are an analyst. You have spent 11 years seeing exactly this. The question is what you do now. You go to the regulator first, or you handle it inside. Both paths have real consequences either way. You understand now that these are not ethical questions. They are strategic ones. You must answer them alone. You go to the board meeting. You wear the right suit. You say very little. You only listen. You are inside the system now. Somewhere, that stress model is still open on someone else's screen. Within 30 days, you retain outside counsel who specializes in bank governance. You move quietly and fast. You request a full independent review of the commercial loan portfolio, framed as a routine post-succession audit. You have one private conversation with the board member whose name appears on the holding company. The conversation is cordial, unhurried. It leaves absolutely no ambiguity about what you know. He resigned 2 weeks later, citing health reasons. The $47 million line goes on watch status. No regulator is ever notified. You make this choice deliberately. Protecting the institution protects you. You will revisit this choice for years. You will think it was wrong. You will not change it. The credit review returns worse than you expected. 218 million reclassified as substandard. 3 loans moved to non-accrual status. Tier 1 capital drops to 7.1%. You are now exposed. The bank is still solvent. It is not comfortable. You are responsible for all of it now. You are responsible for 2.9 billion in deposits, 84,000 customers who have no idea. You stop sleeping the way you used to sleep. The weight of it does not leave at night. The capital problem has two solutions: raise equity and dilute, or shrink the balance sheet. You choose a hybrid. One outside investor, 12% stake, 85 million in fresh capital was injected. No board seat, no operational control. You keep the majority. You keep every decision that matters. Tier 1 capital moves to 9.2%. The regulators who had been watching you have gone very quiet. You have bought yourself time. You intend to use every single day of it correctly from here. You hire a new chief credit officer, someone who has worked through a full credit cycle before. You build an internal credit committee with real authority to push back on any relationship lending. You terminate 3 senior loan officers who approved credit based on who they knew, not the numbers. One of them has been at the bank for over a decade. One of them cries in your office. You give a fair severance package. You do not allow yourself to feel more than is useful right now. You are becoming someone who knows the difference between what is difficult and what is wrong, not the same. By month 9, the non-accrual portfolio is shrinking. The loan book is finally becoming structurally sound. The bank is not growing yet, but it is becoming the kind of institution that can grow now. You start thinking about what the bank could become, not what it has been. That shift is everything. 18 months in, you make your first acquisition. A community bank, 40 miles north of the city. 680 million in assets. Well run, deposit rich. Owner wants out. No succession plan exists. The asking price is 92 million. You pay 88. Cash, stock, and a subordinated debt issuance. The regulators approve in 4 months. You have now crossed 5 billion in total assets. The threshold matters. 5 billion triggers new requirements, enhanced stress testing, more detailed reporting, more scrutiny on everything. You hire for it. You build for it. You do not wait for the scrutiny to arrive unprepared. You are no longer managing a bank. You are building one. The difference between those two things is not small. You have stopped thinking about individual loans. You now think about portfolios. That is a different kind of mind. You have stopped reacting to problems and started designing the conditions where problems form less easily. You are operating at a higher level now. It does not feel like a distance from the work. It feels like control. At 5.4 billion in assets, you begin to truly understand what a banking charter can do for you. You originate loans and sell them into the secondary market, earning fee income while managing your own exposure. You offer treasury services to municipalities. You participate in syndicated loans. You manage risk without carrying all of it. Every dollar of assets generates a return that flows directly to you, silently, compounding, unremarked upon by anyone. Not the way a salary flows, not a bonus. The way capital flows, quietly and without permission. You think about your uncle, who sat on 4.2 billion and said nothing to you for 40 years. You think about what he knew that you didn't. His silence no longer feels unkind to you now. 3 years in, the regional economy delivers exactly the scenario your models assumed, but hoped would not come. Rates move faster than predicted. Commercial real estate, which had been recovering, stalls and then reverses hard. 2 major borrowers are showing early stress signals. Combined loan exposure sits at $74 million. Not fatal, not comfortable. You have to decide before it becomes one or the other. No delay. You can work with the borrowers, extend maturities, restructure the debt, and absorb the cost over 14 months. Or you can call the loans, force liquidation, take the loss now, and keep the balance sheet fully clean. Liquidation is faster, but it destroys businesses and the people who work in them. You have done the math. You choose the workout. Not because you are sentimental, because the expected loss is lower this way. You also notice, somewhere quieter, that this is the first time in 3 years you felt something like mercy. You were not sure whether the math came first or the mercy did. You choose not to look too closely. The workout takes 14 months. Final losses come in at 14.3 million. Your model's held. Your credit officers give you a look at the next quarterly review. We built for this. Everyone knows it. By year 4, the bank holds $6.8 billion in assets. Net income reaches $94 million. Your equity stake is worth somewhere between $380 and $420 million privately. You have not sold a share. You have not drawn a salary above $600,000. Not once. The wealth is entirely structural. Retained earnings, capital ratios, and an institution compounding on other people's money. You understand now why your uncle lived so quietly. The number has no relationship to ordinary daily life. It exists on paper, abstract, permanent feeling, and entirely dependent on a bank that could still experience a run. You do not tell anyone the number, not close to it, not even the approximate range. No one knows. In year 5, a larger bank approaches you. A $40 billion regional institution, publicly traded, expanding fast. They want Harville. They offer $680 million for your controlling stake. No conditions attached. That values the whole bank at over $1.2 billion. The offer is completely clean. No earnout. No operational role. No earnout. Take the money. Walk away. Never think about credit risk ever again. You sit with the offer for 3 full weeks. You do not tell a single person that it exists. You decline it. The reasons are not purely financial, but they are not purely emotional either. Both are true. You have spent 5 years building something that functions as infrastructure, as something real communities depend on. Selling means handing decisions to people whose interests do not align with the communities your bank serves. You have seen what acquisition integration looks like from the inside. You know exactly what always gets cut. You decline, knowing it may cost you $300 million in liquid wealth you will never recover. Still, you make the choice anyway. You are not certain it is right, but you are the one who has to make it. Then, in year 6, something happens that you did not model and could not have planned for. It never announces itself. A competitor bank, $2.1 billion in assets, fails its stress test. The FDIC begins a quiet resolution. They are looking for a buyer. Your bank is on the short list. You have 18 days to decide. The acquisition would take you to nearly $9 billion in assets and cross another major regulatory threshold. But if you move fast enough, the price will land below the bank's full book value. The math is clear. You authorize full due diligence at 6 a.m. By noon, 22 analysts are deep in the data room. By day 3, you know your number. You know exactly what you will pay and what you will write off. On day 7, you submit the bid. On day 12, the FDIC calls back with a counter. You respond the same day. On day 15, you close the deal. Harville Bancorp is now $8.7 billion in total assets. You have not appeared on any list. You have not given a single public interview. No one outside your world knows. But within the community that tracks balance sheet growth and acquisition pace, they all know your name now. The calls start coming. Partnerships, deals, political appointments, a $400 million state treasury deposit relationship. A private equity firm calls. They have a distressed credit portfolio. They want you as their banking partner. You answer calls selectively. The most important skill now is knowing when to withhold capital. Do not deploy it. You are powerful in a way that does not look like power from the outside. Nothing about it is visible. No ceremonial title, no public authority. Just a clean balance sheet and an institution that does not draw attention. In your region, very little commercial activity moves without touching your bank somewhere in the chain. Very little. Tonight, there is a credit committee report waiting in your inbox. There is always something waiting tonight. 3 more commercial loans are showing early stress signals. The rate environment has not stabilized as your models needed. A board member is asking, politely but persistently, about your succession plan. He will keep asking until you answer. You are 44, 6 years running this institution. The tiredness is not what you thought it would be. Not tired from the work itself. Tired of knowing exactly how many things must go right simultaneously to hold. The balance sheet is healthy. Capital is adequate. Your management team is the best you have ever built. None of that means anything if the wrong sequence of events arrives on the wrong Tuesday. You know this. You close the credit report. Then you open it again. One loan is keeping you at the desk tonight. $38 million. A warehouse distribution company. Leverage above 5 times. Covenant headroom is thinning every quarter. The credit officer recommends a covenant waiver and a 90-day review. You are not sure you agree with him. You have seen this exact shape before, this specific gradient of decline. You already know where it ends. The last time you saw this pattern, the 90-day review became a workout, then became a loss. You remember. You set it aside. You will think about it in the morning when your judgment is clearer, not now. The market is already moving without you. Tokyo has opened. Shanghai is trading. The night has its own logic. Somewhere in the overnight session, capital is shifting in ways that will reach your desk by morning. Every night. You did not make these forces. You cannot stop them. You only build the institution to absorb what comes next. You built a bank. Or you inherited one and made it into something that actually works. The distinction blurs. The distinction matters less than it did on the first Tuesday. Everything matters less and more at the same time. The calls will come again tomorrow. The decisions will be real. They are always real now. Every single one. The losses, when they come, will affect businesses and employees and the slow arithmetic of regional economic life. You will make the best decisions you can with the information you have. Some of them will be wrong. The wrong ones will cost money you can absorb, or money you cannot. You will find out which when it arrives. Then you will face what every person who has ever controlled a financial institution has had to face eventually. The moment when the institution is larger than you. When the balance sheet has its own logic and its own will. When the market does not ask for your input before delivering its verdict. It never has. It never will. You are not afraid of that moment. You have been preparing for it since the very first Tuesday it began. But you are not ready for it. No one ever is. That is the part that never appears anywhere in the filings. The clock reads 11:47. The markets open in 6 hours. You get back to work. You always do.